Good evening, everyone. So we have major breaking news coming out about the multiple choice questions from the State Bar in a press release tonight. I don't know exactly what time this was sent. And I just want to preface this video by saying it's kind of late. I already posted a video today about the calculations for the February exam. If any of this content is stressing you out, please keep scrolling and just don't watch it. I don't want you to be stressed out. There is a high demand from applicants for me to keep making this informative stuff. But if it's just not suiting your best interests right now, please do not watch it and keep moving along. Completely respect either position. So I first want to go over the contract, which an applicant sent me part of. A lot of it is blacked out, between the State Bar and Kaplan, which was signed back in August of 2024. And, you know, the contract mentions the Business and Professions Code 6046.6, which I have seen other professors and tutors mentioning about a requisite of any substantial modification of the training or preparation required for passage of the examination that has to have at least 2 years notice of that change. So there can be no major change in the training or the type of preparation needed or the format of the exam without giving law schools and law students and so on and so forth notice of that change. And it goes on in the contract to mention the multiple choice questions. And there's a section 1.1.3 that states that the questions shall not result in any substantial modification to the training or preparation required for passage of the bar exam, and shall test 7 subjects, which we know, shall rely on the legal concepts set forth, in the subject matter outlines. Those are those content maps that the NCBE had always released, and then the State Bar released them for the February bar, and shall rely on the legal concepts set forth in those outlines, and shall be substantially in the basic form of fact patterns, prompts, and 4 possible answers. So in essence, there should be no major change to the way that applicants have prepared for and been tested on the multiple choice questions. Now, fast forward to February 25, and we know that that just did not happen. There were numerous complaints from applicants about areas of law being tested that were not within the maps or in excess of the NCBE checklists. And that happened in the experiment in November as well, I believe, in the area of false imprisonment and some criminal law questions that were tested. We also know that the format of a lot of the questions were not in line with released questions from the NCBE and practice that's typically done in Adaptabar and UWorld. And applicants said that the questions were just really weirdly phrased, and the answer choices a lot were nothing like the preparation that they had or practice questions that they had become accustomed to. So that was a major issue. And I kept saying in video content, why is the State Bar not addressing this? You know, they're addressing all the glitches that happened, but the format of those multiple choice questions, it's 50% of applicants scoring. Why was that not addressed? Well, in the meeting, I guess, last Friday, which I did not know, it did come up. And in the press release that was released today, April 21st, there's 2 sections on the multiple choice. First is of the performance of questions. And it says, during the CBE meeting, we discussed the different types of questions. So it says the majority of the questions were developed by Kaplan. Fine. A subset of questions came from the first year law students exam. Now, for those of you that may not know, in California, we have, I believe, over 45 law schools, and several of them require a first-year law student exam. And what that is, we call it the baby bar. You are tested on 3 subjects. It recently took out the essays and went just multiple choice on contracts, crimes, and torts. And I know in the contract between Kaplan and the State Bar, it does mention that Kaplan is going to have access to those questions to use in the development of the State Bar, the general bar questions, But it does not say that they're going to use the first year law student exam questions for the general bar applicants. And why that is so concerning is because the standard for the general bar is entry-level competent attorney, not just a general knowledge of law, which is required after your first year of law school, at the end of your first year. So those questions should not have been tested on the general bar exam at all. And then, this might be the nail in the coffin, I don't know, guys. It says some questions were developed by ACS Ventures. Someone look that up, please. ACS Ventures, who are they? The state bar's, independent psychometrician, okay? The ACS questions were developed with the assistance of AI and subsequently reviewed by content validation panels and a subject matter expert in advance of the exam. Why didn't applicants know about this? What made the state bar think that that was a good idea? Is this psychometrician an attorney? Who is this content validation panel? And a subject matter expert in advance of the exam? Why did none of this have to go before the Supreme Court? I am so confused as to this entire performance of question section. And I think applicants have every right to be even more upset. I can't even imagine how much more upset you can be, but very concerning. And then they talk about the reliability of these questions. Well, don't worry, because the same psychometrician who comprised some of these questions with AI, okay, said that the multiple choice questions from all sources performed were above the psychometric target of whatever, 0.80, blah, 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 and gives a whole decimal scoring range. So that's not a conflict of interest. Why would the psychometrician say anything less than, of course, they're reliable? They comprised, with the help of AI, a lot of these questions. So that is extremely concerning. We have confidence in the validity of the questions to accurately and fairly assess the legal competence of test takers, State Bar Executive Director Leo Wilson said. Lessons learned. Okay, this part. Sorry, I'm turning all red because it's making me so angry. Lessons learned are being incorporated into the July exam, and all future tests will include additional levels of independent review and validation. That's not going to make applicants calm down. Lessons learned. The lessons learned are the experiment that you, a State Bar, put on for February applicants. Why did you do it this way? You were not ready for this test. And I've tried to kind of disengage and calm applicants down, and my applicants, over 50 applicants, that some had such issues, but many were not allowed, were not, except for one, allowed to retake any portion of the test. But now you mean to tell me that the source of these questions were definitely not reliable. I don't want to say definitely, but questionable as to the reliability. We know that they definitely were not in line with the form of preparation, and there was it's definitely arguable that there was a substantial deviation from the form of question, a modification in the forms of questions from previous testing, and of course the form of preparation that should have been had. Releasing some questions in, I believe, November just was not going to cut it. I think it was only 25 questions anyhow. The content maps, we know that there were issues with. We know that there were some subcategories that were tested. The State Bar says in this press release, it is important to note that both the NCBE and State Bar content maps explicitly state that they are not exhaustive. That's just covering themselves from liability. Moreover, no questions from the smaller subset of subtopics were tested on the February 2025 exam. I hope they're right. I hope that that's true. I don't know, questionable to me, but I hope that that's true. And then it goes on and keeps talking, and I just don't want to read anything else that they wrote, really. So, where do we go from here? I think we need to keep asking questions. We need to keep demanding answers. There's going to be a group of applicants that want to wave the white flag and say, que sera, sera, whatever's going to be here, and that's totally fine. You don't need to, this doesn't have to be your fight. If you're ready to kind of surrender to it and move forward, cool, and I support either way. But the applicants that are still worked up and upset, I'm right there with you, because as a bar tutor for almost 16 years in the state of California and seeing the crap that the State Bar has put applicants through for so many years, sorry, there's no other eloquent way to say that, This bar has just been so frustrating and so riddled with so many non-answers, and they had so much time, and now we get more and more information and more just keeps trickling out. And this was all at the expense of people and their livelihoods and their lives. And I know the stories and I know what they sacrifice and what they go through. So keep having your voices heard. I had to make this video because I'm passionate about what I do and the applicants, and I really only want to report on things that I think applicants need to know about. I've tried to stay out of the state bar drama for so many years, during COVID, during release of essay topics in the middle of the night. Remember that one? That was crazy. So many things that have gone on. The constant proposal of changes where applicants are constantly having to pivot, and I'm having to lead them and pivot. And it's okay, whatever changes come about, because it's not going to stop. I don't think this is going to stop. Hopefully it will get better, but you deserve to get licensed and you deserve to have your voice heard. So keep having a voice. I have your back. I'm the owner of CA Bar Style. I've tutored over 4,500 applicants, and I'm rooting for you all, and I'm thinking of you all. This tonight, it's going to take a little bit for me to process. I'm sure you much more so. So I'm thinking of you all. I hope that was informative. And again, if this stresses you out, please stop watching what I'm saying. But I'm not going to stop reporting on the things that applicants need to know the truth about. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and stay strong. Good night.